Hi, I'm Laura. I'm pursuing a Master's of Education with a concentration in Instructional Technology. I chose Instructional Technology because education is evolving to digital learning and teaching. My goal is to provide future students with the appropriate knowledge and skills needed for successful careers. I also want to inform educators how technology will enrich student learning. The four major themes of this course were to recognize the socio-political nature of education, explain the key aspects of foundational learning theories in interdisciplinary learning and teaching, evaluate how these theories came from diverse educational contexts, and to learn how foundational theories address the needs of diverse learners. The socio-political nature of education tells us how society, politics, and economics shaped our education. There have been three transformations in education since the 19th century. These transformations started with finishing elementary school as the main goal. The second transformation would be completing high school, marking the end of a person's education. Today, receiving a bachelor's degree would be considered the third transformation. I predict the fourth transformation is currently forming, which is to complete a postgraduate degree. Educators and lawmakers are actively creating ways to narrow the achievement gap, or what Ladison Billing refers to as the education debt. The achievement gap refers to academic achievement between minorities and disadvantaged students versus white students. History, economics, and politics are all components that contributed to the education debt and are the reason we have an achievement gap. When looking back into history, Blacks, Indians, and Latinos were not treated equally compared to white students, especially in education. They could not attend school at young ages because they were forced into labor that benefited white factory owners. Another factor that contributes to the education gap is the economic debt. The economic debt refers to the funding schools received based on their ethnic backgrounds. Before the Voting Rights Act of 1965, Blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans did not have anyone representing them in legislation. Without representation, they could not fight for equality in schools. As a public educator, I have a diverse population of students. In my classroom, there is a difference in my highest achieving student versus the student who needs more guidance. Often, it is a difference in ethnicity, family education, and socioeconomic status. Interdisciplinary learning and teaching is important to education because it allows educators to use different disciplines to meet the needs of all learners. Students relate better to the curriculum when they can connect their knowledge to real-world situations. The concept of joining disciplines can be used today in an elementary classroom. When teaching, I believe the best way for my students to learn is to incorporate all subjects in a lesson. For example, my phonics lessons integrate mathematics as well as phonemic awareness. My kindergarten students will identify vowels and consonants in words. So if a word had 3 consonants and 2 vowels, they know the word has 5 letters. Our lives are not separated into subjects. Our lives are always changing, and we are constantly learning and connecting new concepts. Education should be the same way. We need to teach our students how to integrate different disciplines to enrich their learning. The 6 learning theories that will be discussed are behaviorism, cognitivism, social constructionism, situated learning, constructionism, and andragogy. Learning theories serve as foundations of how we can approach learning and teaching. The purpose for learning theories are to know, learn, transfer, design learning environments, design curriculum, and motivate students to grow. The behaviorism learning theory comes from B.F. Skinner, and he discusses the term operant conditioning. Operant conditioning is learning certain behaviors through consequences. I am a strong advocate for positive reinforcement in the early elementary grade levels. Young children are trying to please their teachers, so they love to hear when they are doing something right. Therefore, they will continue to show those same behaviors. Piaget talks about the 4 stages of cognitive development. The 4 stages of development are sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operations, and formal operations. The sensory motor stage is the preverbal stage, and it occurs during the first 18 months of a child's life. In the preoperational stage, children start to recognize language and symbols. At this stage, they are starting to develop memory and imagination. At the concrete operational stage, children start classifying, ordering, and have an idea of numbers. At the formal operation stage, children can start doing hypothetical reasoning. Piaget goes on to explain how maturation, experience, social transmission, and self-regulation are needed to build on each other to develop. Vygotsky and Piaget share similarities and differences when it comes to learning theories. However, Vygotsky believes that learning precedes development. Piaget believes development ends in the adolescent years, and Vygotsky believes a person never stops developing. Actual development is defined as the functions that the child can do independently. Vygotsky describes the zone of proximal development as the distance between actual development and the level of potential development under the guidance of an adult. The learning theory of situated learning is the idea that learning is unintentional and is situated in content or culture. This theory challenges learning in the classroom as it is taught out of context. The theory of constructionism can also be thought of learning by making. Learners construct mental models to have a better understanding of the world around them. By making models, they make connections between ideas with the help of their teacher rather than following a specific set of directions. This learning theory will be beneficial in my pursuit in instructional technology. Creating, modeling, and designing are all elements in constructionism. I'm planning on using these techniques to create instruction where students and educators can be in charge of their own learning. We have been discussing the learning theories that surround children, but what about how adults learn? Andragogy is another theory that will benefit my future goals in instructional technology. I will have to be conducting workshops to train educators how to use technology in the classrooms and learning programs. Most learning theories deal with children and how to appeal to their learning. Instructing adults deals with keeping them motivated and engaged. All students learn differently. Educators must be willing to modify and adapt their instruction to meet the needs of our diverse learners. Every student has a right to a quality education and access to high-quality teachers, materials, and resources, regardless of what their racial or ethnic backgrounds are. A way to meet the needs of students is through differentiated instruction. Differentiated instruction is changing instruction to meet the needs of individual students. Teachers differentiate content, materials, environment, or the way the work is presented. As educators, we must always encourage students to have a voice in their education and how they learn. As an instructional technologist, I plan to create meaningful instruction to meet the needs of all learners in any type of learning environment. When designing or implementing new instruction, I will take in consideration how education has evolved over the last 2 centuries, how different disciplines can be formed together to better meet the needs of all learners, which learning theories will be the best practices, and how to encourage students to have their voice in their own learning. Since students learn their own way and at their own rate, my goal is to provide the right instruction and programs using technology to enrich the learning environment of all students. I will achieve these goals by researching ideas that help create a technology-rich environment. I will also continue to study how adults learn and will create meaningful presentations they can apply to their practice. The future of our society lies within our students, so we must ensure they are growing to their fullest potential.